I went to the Alberta Arts District for my project for this quarter. And it turned out to be an area really, really rich, not only with visual ethnographic information, but also a varying degree of different mentalities on the area, different engagements with the environment around them. And the area sort of became this much more organic thing to me after doing this research and after sort of looking at the different ethnographic examples in class and what they meant and how they can sort of help us understand the ways in which we engage the environments that we're not only living in but helping to create. Alberta has become sort of one of the main arts district, and there seems to be a huge emphasis on vaginas while there. It's like a thing.
Can I film your clavier?
Yes, you can.
Awesome. M&M's are a good time.
Yeah.
Alberta was originally a predominantly black neighborhood, and it had a streetcar. Buses put a stop to that in the late 50s, early 60s. But it used to be one of the main avenues to get between Oregon and Washington, so it was one of the main ways to get over to Vancouver. And it was a predominantly black shopfront neighborhood. It sort of fell into a constant state of kind of disrepair and neglect over the years. And in the 70s, 80s, and even partially in the early 90s, it was an incredibly violent, sort of destitute area. One of the things that wound up saving Alberta and turning it into what we all know it as today was actually a coalition of black artists who sort of demanded that the city, through the PDC, have some sort of urban renewal program that would sort of turn the place around and make it a more viable, livable option for the people who were carving out a living up there and honestly who had been forced to live in the neighborhood for, at least two generations. What we're looking at right now are some examples I filmed of what I would call insurgent art. So this is the stuff that's created without the permission of property owners or store managers or the city. But what's weird is that it gets sort of protected, and it's been turned into this sort of commodity for the street. So like I see people all the time stopping in front of this alleyway in particular to sort of get their picture taken in front of the dumpsters and to take photos of all the work that's being put up over here, and it's gorgeous. It's worth looking at. And as pretty as it is, I don't think that the people who created it originally did it to sort of make the street into this sort of bougie, fun little art district. A lot of the times this is a kind of stamp to remind you of who was here first. At least that's the sense that I get from the art after reading the history. And this is an example of something that still occurs to this day. So this has been fenced off for ground to break to start construction on something. I'm not entirely sure what. But already people have jumped the fence and started just tagging the bejesus out of like any available space. And so these are artists who probably known amongst each other, but are just sort of like elusive taggers to everybody else. And by everybody else, I'm referring to the sort of businesses and people who have moved in since the street has become one of the more expensive, sort of cool places to live in the city. And this right here is an example of kind of like self-referential hipster art that has been just sort of tore up by taggers and sort of like frustrated locals and everything like that. So it originally was this quirky, cute little hipster scene that has just been, you know, personally to me, kind of justifiably defaced pretty significantly. These are examples of shop-sponsored, state-sanctioned art. So this is stuff that was paid for by local businesses to decorate the front of the incredibly beige, incredibly blocky Black United Fund on Alberta Street, which is supposed to be sort of like the last bastion of the black artist groups that created this neighborhood in the first place. And this piece on the side was done by a black local artist named Eat Cho, who I met at a coffee shop, and he told me that the most frustrating thing about working on this piece was having white people stop him to tell them how great a job he was doing, which he found kind of to be sort of an ironic disturbance to deal with while working on a piece for the street. So coming full circle with everything, I would have to say that a lot of what we looked at and read in class helped me navigate this area and learn more about it, like Mental Life by Simmel, the idea that the art is something that your brain thinks up to act out upon the environment, and then through the act of doing that, it influences other people who then move through the environment you've helped to create. So this is an example of crystallized time, of placemaking, of mental life, social construction, insurgent citizenship. It's all of that. So I know that I'll never look at any place the same ever again, and I sure as shit won't look at Alberta the same ever again.
What's the matter? Jealous? Huh? Feel the tension.